Did you have a J14 style photo of him or poster in your bedroom?
I had a huge Titanic movie poster in my bedroom. And then my other wall was all Broadway posters that were signed by people I would eventually work with.
Hello and welcome to I'll Drink to That. We are so excited to have you here. We're raising the bar on Broadway conversations and beyond, and we could not be more excited for our guest, the one and only Krysta Rodriguez. You know her, you love her, you're obsessed with her. You've seen her and loved her on Smash, First Date. I was absolutely amazed, and so much more. So we're so excited to bring her on in.
Hi.
Hello.
How's it going?
I am so good. I mean, is this the best couch I've ever seen?
It's
Maybe.
Gorgeous. Everywhere I look, there's beautiful things in here.
The floor room is definitely killing it.
I'm always scoping out, fabrics, pillows. It's like
same. Well, we're so excited to have you here. And drinks. Oh my goodness. Oh, yum. Thank you so much.
And I think I got, what did I get? The talisman?
The talisman. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, cheers.
Cheers. This is so much more pleasant than hot ones.
Honestly, I would love to do a version of that too. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, me too.
I'm obsessed.
I have tasted all the hot sauces.
Okay.
So I'm prepared if I ever get asked to go on.
So we're going to play some this or that.
Okay.
And then we'll, dive into some other things.
Okay, great.
Okay. Into the woods or first date?
I mean, okay, so here's the thing you should know about me.
Here's the thing. We're ready.
I'm an overthinker and I'm a rule follower.
Ooh.
So what's the framing here? What am I this or thatting? Like better show? What my time in those shows? What am I this or thatting?
Time in the show.
Time in the show? I would say first date. I got to be honest. I loved my time in Into the Woods and cherish it. But First Date was such a huge moment for me. It was the first time my name was above the title and leading a show and getting to create it with the people around me. And it just was a really, really special time in my life. So I will pick that if that's the criteria.
That is the criteria.
Yeah.
Okay. Broadway or TV?
Broadway's my first love. I'll just say that. I never grew up imagining being on television. I always grew up imagining being on Broadway or in theater. When I saw Annie when I was 5, that's when my whole life changed, and was trying to make it to New York from the time I could remember. We had to do a book report on a state when I was in 2nd grade, and I did it all about New York. I mean, I was like,
look at
this was always my dream. It wasn't until later, and in fact, when I moved here, it was like, I only want to do theater, no TV at all. And then you get older and you want a weekend, here and there. And so you do TV. And then I found loving that as well. I love being able to see a character through a whole season, or, all the changes that can come your way in that way. But I'm excited to be going back to theater this year.
Well, I think everyone who's watching is also excited. So we're very ready.
Thanks.
So Cinderella or Wednesday Addams?
I'll just say Cinderella.
Great. Great. Cats or dogs? I know the answer to
dogs.
this.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Playing dress up or designing a new space?
Designing a new space.
You already knew that. Your brain was not
No, I mean, I could justify, I could talk about it, but designing a new space.
Okay, I know you're a California girly just like me,
yes.
But NYC or LA?
NYC.
Also immediate.
That's an immediate. Yeah.
Okay, more importantly, do you think Rose and Jack would have fit on the door?
I listened to an interview, I think it was James Cameron, about this. And he was like, if you're arguing about that, you're not paying attention to the movie. Someone had to die. So it doesn't matter. He's like, if the door was too big, that's my fault. Because someone had to die. So I'm taking that stance now. Is that probably not. It would have tipped. Maybe they could have fit, but they wouldn't have survived. Someone had to die.
Still, I don't like that. But I know you've watched the movie 13 times in theaters.
I saw it 13 times in theaters, yes. When I was, that summer that it came out.
That was your Roman Empire.
A big deal, yeah. And recently, they re-released it in theaters. The whole first 20 minutes, I'm like, why don't I remember anything about this movie?
No, truly.
And then the second Leo comes on screen, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I remember the way his hair flies over his eyes. I remember what his hand was in the poker game he was playing. I could, as soon as he entered, I was like, oh, this is because the first 20 minutes of the movie, he's not in it. So I didn't remember that as formative as the rest of it. So Leo was a big deal to me.
So I'm assuming then, Leo, did you have a J14 style photo of him or like poster in your bedroom?
I had a huge Titanic movie poster in my bedroom. Well, I had that, and then I had signatures from TV shows. So I had like the Saved by the Bell cast, the Friends cast, the like Frasier. Like I was in the era of must-see TV. And then my other wall was all Broadway posters that were signed by people I would eventually work with, which is crazy.
Wait, that is absolutely magical.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Okay, you mentioned Friends. So were Ross and Rachel really on a break?
Oh, I'm on Rachel's side on this 100%.
Okay, I'm on the same side.
She says, maybe we should take a break. I know every line of every episode of Friends. And then he leaves. No discussion, no talk. He was not well within his rights to do what he did.
Okay, which Friends character would you be?
Monica.
I see that for you.
Yeah, big time.
Part of me is like, am I a smelly cat kind of girl? I don't know.
I mean, I love Phoebe. My whole like comedic sensibility is based around Lisa Kudrow and Phoebe in Friends, but I am a Monica. I'm super competitive at games, and I'm super type A, and I'm a Ravenclaw.
Board game. You're a Ravenclaw.
Of course, yes.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't mean for that to sound so judgmental. That was not very Gryffindor. I can do better. I'm going to be better. What is your go-to audition song?
Oh, gosh. It used to be Hallelujah, Jeff Buckley's song, and then everyone started singing that. Yeah. And then by around that time, I stopped having to bring my own song in, which was great.
Amazing human.
Yeah. Well, just, usually you're having to learn from the show at some point. So that's what I've been doing since. But
what Broadway show makes you the happiest? Like, what makes your heart just like explode when you saw it?
Well, what show I loved was Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. That one really blew my mind when I first saw it, because I saw it in the tent before it was on Broadway. I had never seen anything like it, and I felt like the characters were so 3D, and it was larger than life, but it was like dealing with such universal themes, and I really was amazed by that. That's like a really like formative show for me. And then most recently, I got to see Maybe Happy Ending, which is so beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
Transformative. So I'm excited about that.
I love that there's this push for shows that make you really feel something.
Yeah.
Because I think that is one of the things that makes theater so magical.
Totally.
Like, to be in a place where this one version of the show exists this one time, and you're in this collective experience. And I think Maybe Happy Ending is a really great example of that. Yeah. I was also unwell after that.
I know. Okay. It's really emotional.
Okay. Yeah. So when was the last time you cried tears of joy? Was it at Maybe Happy Ending?
Oh my God, tears of joy.
Or tears of sadness. I cry a lot on the subway.
I did cry at Maybe Happy Ending, for sure.
Love it.
That's probably the last time I cried.
Okay, well, what is one thing that you are super proud of that people might not necessarily know about you?
That I've been to all 7 continents.
You just checked off Australia last year.
I just checked off Australia, and I was in Antarctica in 2018. So I've hit them all, and that was like a big deal for me. That was an identity builder that I really wanted to take care of. So when I got that stamp, it was a big deal.
I remember creeping on your Instagram, and you had like a photo of this. It wasn't a capybara.
It was a quokka.
What is that?
A quokka.
A quokka.
Quokka. They're so cute. They smile.
So cute.
They're the best. And they just run around the island. They're not afraid of people. So you just hang out with them.
Something that scares you.
I think not living up to potential is like a thing that I'm most afraid of. That I never want to be like feeling like things pass me by. I want to be hitting things head on. But sometimes that's really scary to do. The fear of fear is the most scary thing.
I mean, you also had such a long career in the arts and as a creative. I feel like sometimes there's this fear when you're doing something incredible. I think as artists, is this it? Are they going to find me out that I'm not good enough for
every
this?
time. Every time. Yeah. Fortunately, in the theater and especially with Smash, I've been fortunate to be involved with it for a long time, not just on the TV show, but I've been involved in developing the musical since its inception. It is a nice feeling to be able to walk into a room, you've put the work in, you've made the inroads with everybody, and that everyone trusts everyone, and you're going to put something together. It's harder to walk into something that's not tested, and you're not sure how it's going to feel, and that's when I do feel like, oh, they're gonna find me out.
Well, what that feels so crazy to me, because I know we talked about this earlier. Like when I was first moving to New York, I remember learning about you, and I was just like, one day I want to have this level of talent and skill, and like, you're here.
Oh, thanks.
But you still sometimes feel like,
oh my God, all the time.
Meow.
No, all the time.
Oh that never goes away.
Never goes away. No, unfortunately. Hate to tell everybody, it never goes away. No arts exist in a vacuum. And you can bring what you need to it, but you don't know what everyone else is going to bring. So you don't actually know what the product is going to be like. So you don't know what you can rely on and what you can't. So sometimes it's difficult, you know?
It really,
and I'll drink to that.
Oh, I will also drink to that. You've obviously been doing this a while, but when you were growing up in Orange County, little Krysta, you know, dancing around, bopping in her room.
Yep.
What did
definitely
you
was doing that.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely sang into a hairbrush multiple times.
God.
Did I maybe sing into a hairbrush today? Who knows? Who's to say?
Yeah.
So what did you want to be? What did like 5-year-old you want to be?
I wanted to be a napkin in Beauty and the Beast. My whole dream
what is happening?
was to be a napkin in Beauty and the Beast.
I have so many questions. You wanted to be a napkin in Beauty and the Beast.
Yes. That was my dream. And my parents were like, you don't want to be Belle? And I'm like, no, I want to be a napkin. For some reason, I was just really upset. They had the pretty skirts that twirled around. They were like doing PKs all around. And it was just really beautiful. And I thought I was also I think I was always like a chorus girl in my mind. Like I was always part of the troupe. You know, I didn't have the main character syndrome. I always just wanted to be in the room, you know? When I came to New York, when I was 13, I saw Scarlet Pimpernel, which was an obsession of mine at the time. And Christina Andres came out and she was signing autographs, and I was just enamored with her. And then she put her hat on and she walked into Times Square, and we never you couldn't pick her out of a lineup. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I was always really attracted to the separation of person and art, and the sort of being able to lose yourself in something and be important to the people who are there, but not have to be important all the time. So I've always just kind of wanted to be moderately important, I guess.
I think you're a little bit more than moderately important.
I just wanted to
Wait, so you wanted to be a napkin.
A napkin.
In Beauty and the Beast. And now you've been Cinderella.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Was that a downgraded to your dream? Are you okay? Can you accept
I know
this?
It's such a bummer that I've had to, be the main character every now and then.
Okay, so who is your favorite Disney princess? Is it Cinderella?
Actually, I think it is Beauty and the Beast. I think it's Belle, and also Meg, of course. We have to throw that in there. She's the best. But Ariel was a big deal for me. That was formative years, and then Belle was even more. To have them back to back, that princess representation of these independent women who were, intelligent and bright young women sick of swimming, that was a huge. So those two women are kind of they're tied.
Yes, I feel that.
I just got done touring with this Disney princess show, so we just went all over Southeast Asia, and I feel like I see little kids, and I see even grown women and people in places where maybe they don't have the same freedoms that we hopefully will continue to have. And to be able to sing, to let it go. You don't have to, that perfect girl is gone. Be the good girl you always had to be. And watch these little kids singing that. It's I had such good representation, I think, with Disney. And even now they're getting even better, and being able to say that you don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to be the good girl and all those other things. It feels really important to be able to say that and to know that they're hearing it, feels good.
That is so beautiful and so moving. And I think, how exciting it must be to have little girls looking up to you and going, oh my gosh, I could be this. This is real.
Yeah.
One of the things I absolutely adore about you is you talk a lot about your dreams, and you're like, this is a dream. And I think we need more of that.
Sure, yeah.
So when you were growing up, what did 10-year-old you think that you would did you think that you would have a career in the arts?
I didn't know about it. I didn't, even in career, we had career day when I was in first grade, which is insane to ask a bunch of first graders what they want to do. And I went as a singer. I just didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how you could do it. And then it was after I came to New York when I was 13 that I realized it could be a job. And then from that point on, I was so when I was 10, I was still floundering, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life.
Can you believe it? Older than 10, I still feel that way. Exactly. So we're doing great.
Well, so it was around 13 when it really solidified. And that's when I went to the art school in Orange County. And then I moved here right out of high school. And I've been doing it ever since.
So what was your first paying job as a performer?
I was one of the daughters, not even a named daughter, in Fiddler on the Roof in Long Beach, California.
All right.
Yeah. With like a good group. Lenny Wolpe, who was in Drowsy Chaperone.
Yeah.
And like, he was our Tevye, and Adrienne Barbeau, who's was like a, famous television star.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a big deal show. But I was like a daughter. Like I wasn't any of the daughters.
Right. That is totally
But I got
fair.
paid, I think, $250, and it was.
I will take it.
It was.
I love that.
Yeah.
Your career has spanned so many different shows. Good Vibrations.
Mhm.
That was a little bit of a time ago.
A little bit of a time ago, yes.
To First Date, to Addams Family, and now you're going to be going into Smash.
Yeah.
What role would you say has been the most transformative, or maybe changed your life in the most unexpected way?
Yeah. Speaking of Disney princesses and all that, Susan Egan is one of my mentors. She's also an Orange County girl and went to my high school. So
okay,
yeah. So she's always been somebody I've looked to, and I remember her coming to have lunch with me one time. I was going through kind of a difficult time in a show, and her just saying, like, not only are you going to learn from these characters, but these characters are encountering you in a time when you need them.
Ooh.
And you're encountering them when they need you. Like, so you're in conversation with these women. And so you have to be figuring out, not only change yourself for who this is, but let that person change you and bring something about them. And so I try to find that from every character that I do. And I feel like I was really transformed by Cinderella. And in a difficult way. That show was difficult. It's hard to do. It's hard to learn. I learned it in 9 days and had to put it up. I didn't know the show. You're falling down all the time. And it's just like, it's very hard on your body. It was deep COVID. Like most of the people I was working with, I never even got to see their face. Like if they were backstage, I never saw any crew person's face because we were like fully masked the whole time. It was difficult. Like so much about it was hard, but who I got to learn who she was and who she taught me to be was really transformative. And, people, again, think of her as a princess, but she really like starts the show as indentured servitude, wanting to go to a ball, and ends it raising children that aren't hers with a man who isn't her partner. Like she's the original like alternative family. Like she doesn't end up with a prince. In fact, she gets him and doesn't want it. She forges a path that most women don't even get to forge. And in her little limited life, she could really make that happen for herself. So I think it really unlocked this idea that I can make my own reality and create a life that might not exist to anyone else,
Krysta, I am so shook. What just happened? Oh my gosh. I love that you have really found a way to create this feeling of vulnerability and honesty in characters that, I think sometimes you can write off. Like someone who's going on a first date, you're like, first date, you're like, okay, well, we can be jaded, we can be hopeful, but also what are the layers underneath that and why do we feel that way?
Sure. And I would say even like playing Casey in First Date, I didn't understand her as much as I do now. So sometimes you have to live through it a little bit more and you learn to be more vulnerable.
You definitely do.
Yeah.
So speaking of learning to be more vulnerable and all those things, you were in the original show Smash.
Yes.
And now 12 years later, you're bringing the show about being behind the scenes and making a Broadway show to Broadway.
Sure. Yeah.
How is your heart feeling about that? There's a lot to unpack there.
It is. Yeah. And not to mention the fact that like I'm playing a woman now. I was a child basically then, like a teen essentially. And now I'm a woman. So that's been interesting to grow with this project. Also, like I was in the other show, like I wasn't even really involved in Bombshell. And the musical is very heavily about Bombshell. It's about us writing Bombshell. So it's a totally different show than the series. Yeah. It borrows from the characters and sort of the general idea, but I keep saying, and maybe I'll be more media trained as it goes.
No, you're
but
fantastic.
I keep saying that it's like Smash fan fiction. It's like the same characters, but they're in a different. They're in like a different scenario, and they break off into side quests. I think it's been really fun to work with. Rick Ellis wrote Addams Family as well. So to be back in his sort of sense of humor, and Bob Martin and Susan Stroman is just a genius. And it's very rare that I'm in a big Broadway musical. Like I'm usually in these weird shows that are,
I love your weird shows.
And cool. Yeah. So it's just been fun to sort of put myself in that big situation and lean on like It was very comedic. I barely sing. Sorry. It's like, sorry to anyone that cares about that, but I barely sing.
I care about that.
I'm thrilled. I mean, I don't have to wake up in the morning and be like, mom, you know. I'm really just relying a lot on like comedy and scene work and stuff, which I love.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we go,
yeah,
I want to hear what you are the most excited about next. Obviously you've got Smash,
sure.
but you are also an incredible designer. I did see Jeremy Jordan's dressing room for Great Gatsby,
yes.
and the way I was gagged, I was like, why is Jeremy Jordan's dressing room cuter than my entire existence and apartment? How?
Well, hire me for your apartment.
Yes!
I'm avail. Yeah. I've always had another, I wouldn't even say a passion. It's a no-brainer. It's just like it's something that's just innate in me for design. My parents my mom especially is a designer and real estate broker. So we were always around homes and renovations and all this stuff. And so it just has always been in me. Even since I was a kid, I would go I'd walk into a room and I'd be like, that wall needs to go. And like, or I could like imagine how I wanted to live in a space. And in the pandemic, when things were looking a little dire for actors and people were moving and buying houses and designing them, I decided to, in earnest, start my design business. So my main source of like income and all that in that arena is large scale renovations, huge home remodels. Jeremy asked me to do his dressing room, which I've always done my own. And speaking of Into the Woods, this was a time when no one could even come backstage, and I fully designed my dressing room, like wallpaper, everything. And like no one could even be in it. So I'm a nester. Even if I'm doing a show for 3 weeks, I have to nest in it. So I was like, yeah, that sounds great and fun. And then from that, I have 9 rooms this season that I did.
How are you going to be okay?
So I am okay. And I'm going to get to do my own for Smash. So that'll be sort of the conclusion of that thing. So right now I've been working on those and it's been really fun. I think it's so similar to acting in a lot of ways. You're creating a character, especially the dressing room of it all. Right. You know, you're creating how you want to feel. Right. You're creating like backstories and future feelings and all this stuff around something, and you're trying to like create a story, a narrative. So I'm having a great time with that.
What is one thing that you want people to take away from you?
I'm thrilled and privileged to work in this industry. It's such a joy to be able to bring things to people and create thought-provoking work. And I just hope that we all can huddle together. And I would love for us to stay kind to one another, you know, in this time when it's very easy to be mean. I just think like there's room for all of us here, and I want to just like hunker down with my community, and I hope everyone joins us and take something away from it.
Well, I will definitely drink to that.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. You are so lovely, and I cannot wait to see what's next for you.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thanks to our guest for the great conversation, to the Tao Group for hosting us at the Floor Room, and to you for joining us. Subscribe to catch every episode and let us know in the comments who you'd love to see next on I'll Drink to That. Cheers and see you next time.